Hey everyone, welcome to the next episode of MSP Inspire Workshops. I'm Simran Makhija, a Microsoft Launch Student Ambassador from India, and I will be your host for the day. Our speaker for the day is Ishan Vora, who will be presenting a workshop on the topic of creating an infinite runner game on the Unreal Engine, which is going to be your introduction to building games on the Unreal Engine. We hope you find the workshop useful and also use it to conduct workshops in your own institutes and communities. Before we begin, I'll give you a brief introduction of who Ishan is. Ishan is also a Microsoft Launch Student Ambassador, and he's been a very active member of our community. We're very happy to have him here with us today, but that's not it. He's also a part of the International Organization of Software Developers. He's a CEO of his own company, the Indie Corp. He's studying his engineering from MSIT College of Engineering, and he has won the Smart India Hackathon with his team. For those that aren't from India or are unfamiliar with the Smart India Hackathon, Smart India Hackathon is a hackathon organized by the government of India with a lot of problem statements and tracks in both the software and the hardware fields. And Ishan has been the winner of one of those tracks. I think Ishan can tell us more about it in a bit. So yeah, thanks a lot for joining us today, Ishan.
Thanks a lot for having me. It feels wonderful. Finally being here, finally being able to um, talk about one of the things that make me want to get out of bed every morning. That is game development.
So we'll get to that as quickly as possible. Just if you could give us a brief into your what SIH is and what your SIH experience was, and then we'll get started with the workshop.
Okay, so Smart India Hackathon is one of the biggest hackathons in the whole world. So thousands of students send in their applications for various solutions in different problem statements issued by governments of various states or big companies like Tata Motors, etc. Now, in the grand finale, if you're selected for it, so we have some 4 to 10 teams competing in one problem statement, and there is one winner from each statement. So our team won the first prize in the problem statement that focused on solving agricultural crisis that India has been facing since 60 to 70% of the population in India depends on agriculture for their family income and to earn their living. So that's what the problem we solved by creating analytical tools using machine learning, and created Android application for farmers as well as the admin officers who work for government in the same field. So that is pretty much it about Smart India Hackathon. It was a really amazing opportunity and a platform to be working with. Also, I worked with really cool people, and that's how the whole experience came along.
Maybe we can have a session on that entire experience sometime in the future. But for now, let's get started with the workshop. The stage is all yours, Ishan.
All right. Thank you, Simran. And okay, thank you all for joining me today. So, I'm Ishan Vora, and one of the many things that I am passionate about is game development. I am a game development mentor at the organization called International Organization of Software Developers, as Simran mentioned. And um, part of my job there is to mentor students on creating applications, gaming applications on softwares like Unreal Engine. So, a little introduction to Unreal Engine. It is the world's most open and advanced real-time 3D creation tool. So, Unreal Engine is not just for game development. It is continuously evolving to serve not only its original purpose as a state-of-the-art game engine. Today, it gives creators across industries the freedom and control to deliver cutting-edge content, interactive experiences, and immersive virtual worlds. So, Unreal Engine is a super powerful software that can run from low-end machines to super high-tech machines. The application of this software is immense, and this software modified or the original version is used throughout the industry, whether you are an independent game developer or you have a small or a large game development studio, whether you are working in companies like ILM, creating visual effects. Alright, so Unreal Engine can be used for all the following purposes, such as game development, augmented reality and virtual reality development, also mixed reality. HoloLens by Microsoft now officially supports standard development kit on Unreal Engine 4. So that's super amazing to know. Virtual movie production, I'll explain that in a while. Architecture, so you can create various architectural models in Unreal Engine by putting the pieces together. It's being widely used by various architectural firms in not only in India but all over the world. And also, you can create various simulations using Unreal Engine. So if you're working sort of like in physics department or you're studying theoretical physics and you need a simulation of sort of like two moving objects colliding, or even a complex simulation such as like revolving electrons in their orbitals in an atom, you can do that with Unreal Engine 4. Okay, now let's talk about the virtual movie production part. Remember the super amazing movie that came out that broke the records on Blockbuster? That was, yes, probably you guessed it, it's Avengers Endgame. So, in there, in the movie, the main character, Thanos, was created, and the whole motion capturing and facial as well as the whole animations part, even many of the visual effects were created using Unreal Engine. So that's sort of like one of the big reasons I stick with the software is because one of the most amazing super villain was created on this software. So what are we going to do in this session? Particularly in this session, we are going to create a cool 3D infinite running game like Subway Surfers or Temple Run in Unreal Engine 4. We are going to build an environment, spawning flow tiles. So spawning is sort of like giving birth to a particular object out of nowhere, picking various items, so like coins or health pickups or like power ups, and we'll design a main menu and a pause menu for the game. And after the game is finished, we are going to package our game for various different platforms. All right, let's move along. So, what all things that we need for this? Um, we need Unreal Engine 4, so preferably the latest version, that is 4.25. I would recommend not downloading the preview version. If you see in bracket it's written preview, don't download that. Those are beta versions and are pretty unstable. A working internet connection, and that's pretty much it. We are all set to create an awesome game. All right, let's jump into the Epic Games site, Epic Games launcher. Let's just figure out a way to exit the presentation. So Google UnrealEngine.com and download Unreal Engine, the setup for it. What you'll get is the setup for Epic Games Launcher. Now don't get confused, Unreal Engine is owned by Epic Games Launcher, so that's what you're supposed to get. So when you'll install it, you'll create an ID. I have already created my account. All you have to do is select the Unreal Engine tab here, and you can see what various articles, what things have been going on in the field related to Unreal Engine, and you can go to learn for get some learning resources. To download Unreal Engine, just go to library, click this little plus icon. Now if you're new to this, you won't have anything here, so just select the latest version. I have already installed that, so I'm going to press launch, and the Unreal editor will start loading, right? So here you'll see all your projects, and if you scroll down even further, you'll get to the vault. So vault is the place where all your assets that you buy or download from marketplace are shown. So we have paid as well as free resources here. All you have to do is search. So, for example, if you are looking to create an open world forest, so just type in open world demo collection, and this collection is for free that you can get. Alright, so I have
So
pressed.
Ishan, I
Yep.
just saw, in your collections, I just saw the Minecraft collection, and I'm so excited about it. Even though this is not going to be the session where you reveal that, but I am so excited. I just wanted to drop in. I can't
So
wait for it to launch.
yes. So alright. So some of you know that I create content on Unreal Engine like movies and games and stuff. So this is a special project that is going to be sort of like a tribute and in sort of like referencing Microsoft Student Ambassador Program. All right, let's start with creating a project. So we are creating a game. So just select this type and press next. Now it will ask you to select a template. Um, there is a first person template, um, a flying, puzzle, rolling, third person. In this particular game, we are going for third person perspective. That's sort of like the way we have seen Unreal Engine, sort of like infinite running games. So third person perspective is sort of like placing the camera on behind the player character, and it will follow wherever the player will go. Sort of like in Subway Surfers or Temple Run, or even in games like GTA 5. First person is sort of like Call of Duty and the FPP view in PUBG. So select this and press next. Now we are going to create this game without any coding. So that's another pro for you. So if you are not into coding but you like creating things and you're into game development, you can do that with the first party blueprint system. So we are going for maximum quality, but if you want your game to be sort of like more reasonable and you want to use optimize your game for low spec devices, select scalable 3D or 2D. We are going to select with starter content because starter content includes a lot of pre-built objects and assets that Unreal Engine provides, and you don't want to skip that. So select that. For this, we are just going to select desktop or console, but you can later on edit this and make your whole game for mobile or tablet. So you can change this later. Okay, my graphics card is not that great that it could support ray tracing right now. So I'm just going to disable it. But if you're going to create a balls to the walls game and you're creating something really powerful, um, such as the Battlefront 2 game, the Star Wars Battlefront 2 game, or Call of Duty World War 2, then make sure to check this. Alright, now click on Create Project. And when you do that, something like this will appear, right? So currently you will be seeing the third person example map. So this is what you might be seeing right now. And if you're running it for the first time, the content browser will pick it up. So this is sort of like the way Unreal Engine presents itself after we create our project. Now let's take a tour on what things are available to us. In the bottom, we have our content browser. With the name shouldn't confuse us. It has all the things available to us that we can drop in, all our assets that we have imported, etc., in the content browser. Right, all our sounds, models. The starter content folder is here. There are blueprints. So all of these things are here. On the world outliner, all of the assets that are in our scene right now can be viewed. So if I select wall 7, so it selects wall 7 here, and you can edit the properties of wall 7 by either selecting the transformation tools here, so like scale, rotate, and translate it. Translation means moving one object in 3D coordinate system to another. So I can just use the arrows to move around, right? So I can do that from here, or I can do this from here, or I can even change the material that it is made of, static, mesh, So static mesh is anything that is going to be static, like not moving, and it's not going to be playable in the game. So that is what static mesh is. All right, so physics, collision, etc., all the settings will be in details panel. This window is called a viewport, where our scene that we are designing in our game will look like. And to add or subtract something, we can directly click on an object and move it wherever we want. You can select anything and press delete to delete it. And on the left part, we have our place actors menu. In this, we have all the various templates and pre-built objects that we can drag in. For example, if you want a different lighting system in your game, for example, you want a point light. So just select light and drag in the point light. So you can see it is a point emitting directions in all the emitting light in all the directions. And I can even change the color of the light, sort of like a virtual Philips hue. Alright, so I don't need that right now, I'm just going to delete it. We have spotlight and we have like really cool stuff. For this, we don't need much of this, and just drag the content browser here because it gives us more real estate in the viewport to play with. Alright, first of all, try to press play and you'll see that our player is moving from one place to another, and you can control your camera using your mouse. How do we stop that? Just go to third person BP folder, blueprints, and then open third person character. Now go to the viewport and you can see there is a camera, right? And this is our character. This camera is connected to a particular point. Just adjust the position of the camera to the place where you want it to be. So a little bit above would be fine. Now go to the event graph tab. If it is not showing here, just open it from the left side, right? And there would be an option saying camera input. So select all of that and delete it, right? So we have deleted all the blueprints that control the camera, because in infinite running games we are not controlling the camera using sensors, accelerometer or mouse, right? All we need is to move our player automatically, like keep him running, and also change lanes, right? So all the movement input is just that, like keep on running automatically, and the only input that we'll require is changing the lanes. Alright, so how do I make my player automatically keep on running? Here would be in the movement section, movement input section, there would be an event called input axis forward. So this would be connected here, right? And the axis value would be here, and it would be something like this. All you have to do is select the move forward input and delete it. Now right click and type in event tech. So event tech is sort of like a task that is going to repeat itself after every particular period of interval. By default it is 1 second, so after 1 second it will take one step forward. That's what we're trying to say. Now just save it, compile, save, and press play. Now we can see that our sort of like player is moving automatically. Awesome. Now let's create our environment. Sort of like we are going to spawn various tiles. So how do we do that? First of all, we cannot do that here because there is already a lot of things in this. Go to file, new level. We are going to create a default level, and we have created it. But first we need to save it. Press on save current and type in level 1. I've already created my level, so I'm going to cancel it, but you will have to press save. Okay, go to a particular folder wherever you want to save it, save it. in game development, in especially in Unreal Engine 4, I recommend working in directories. So create a directory called levels and then save your level there, because it's easier to reach particular assets if they're stored in organized folders. So that's my technique. Now I have opened my level and there would be literally nothing. So it would be just a skybox and normal flow tile. Go ahead and select the flow tile and press delete. Alright, now we have just a skybox, sort of like only sky, some light, and our player start. So player start is the position at which our player will begin playing. So if you press play, it will just fall right now because you don't have a floor tile, right? So I'm going to create a folder called blueprints. So right click, create folder, blueprints. I have already created that. Now right click, select blueprint class, actor component, and type master tile, right? So do that, and this would create an empty sort of like tile for you, right? Just delete that for you to reset where we began. So master tile 1, I named this because I already had an asset called master tile. Now the only thing you'll see is default scene root. Now you cannot delete this, and if you can, don't, because this is important. Alright, we need to add a component. Type in add static mesh, right? And here select the static mesh here and type in floor. Now I'm going to select floor underscore 400 by 400. Okay, now I have my floor at location 0, 0, 0. So it's pretty much at the origin of my graph. Right. Now I don't want my game to be very plain and boring. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open my browser. I'm going to go on a website called Megascan Library. It is owned by a company called Quixel. So what they have done is they have created a huge library of assets and materials that anyone can use for. And some are paid, some are free. But the good thing is, if you're an Unreal Engine user, if you have an account on Epic Games, you get all the assets for free. So type in Asphalt. So that's kind of like a road-like asset. So I have downloaded this asset. Go to download settings and select the resolution. For me, it is just going to be 2K. Albedo is sort of like the base color of your texture. AO means ambient occlusion. It is important. It sort of defines how light is interacting with the various particles of your material. Displacement, we don't need that. All right. Normal map or normal texture basically defines various height aspects. So sort of like if I am making the material for this controller, right? So this is a basic gamepad. Now the analog sticks are at a greater height than these buttons. So the analog sticks will be in the darker blue color, and the buttons would be in the lighter bluish shade. So this is how normal map works, basically describing what point is at what height, sort of like relatively to other points. We are going to choose roughness also. So roughness is basically defining what is the roughness at various positions of this material. And specular. Specular is sort of like the property of light bouncing off an object. If someone says, okay, this is a silver object, completely polished, and this is specular. So specularity is defined by light falling on an object and bouncing off at the same angle. So sort of like creating a reflection of that, like in mirror, or like shiny objects like gold, silver, platinum, etc. So if something is less specular, that would be showcasing a bit rough, sort of like road, and we are going to download that as well. So we have 5 images displaying the information. Go back to Unreal Engine 4, press import, go to your folder wherever your material is, select that and press open. Now you'll have something like this. So I'm just going to find where my um, material is saved.
So Ishan, I am a bit, what do you say, confused as to seeing the whole folder structure. So whenever you create a new game, is this kind of a folder structure always there, like so many folders and so much
Yes.
content?
Basically, Unreal Engine. Basically, I'm assuming if you're creating an object, you would have so many levels in it, or even if you're having just one level, 1 or 2 levels, you might have various assets. So what I try to do is, okay, I have 500 models or I have 50 models. I cannot just um, import them, and each model has various files. So there are textures. What are textures?
Okay.
Textures are 2D information of an object. What are materials?
Okay.
So each texture combines of an object to form a material. Material takes 2D information from texture and convert it into 3D world information. So if I select this, double click to open it, on the left side I can actually see how this material looks like in 3D world, right?
Okay.
So this is how it works. All right, let me just close all the things that were open. Awesome. So let's just create a new folder called asphalt, and I'll import the material again. So import, go to the folder where your okay. So here I have 4 files which have roughness, normal, ambient occlusion, and albedo. Albedo is your base color. So I'm going to select them, press open, and they say importing. Just import them, Control Shift S or save all to save your assets. Right click, select material and name your material. So asphalt underscore M. Underscore M is the convention followed to name, followed by Unreal Engine programmers to create a material file. That's the convention that we follow. Okay, now in this it would look like our material is completely black right now, and there is nothing connected to this node here. So what you are going to do is select the albedo texture and drag it. The RGB node will be connected to the base color, and on the right side you'll see a preview of how it looks like. So currently it looks very smooth actually. So roads are not very smooth. We need a sort of like a thing to describe the normalness, like the heights of various particles. So drag the normal texture and connect it to normal. Okay, now it's looking a bit better. You can see rough spots on the material. Now let's drag in ambient occlusion. So ambient occlusion is here. So our material will interact with the light at a particular format. So yellow will be more reflecting than black. So that's pretty much it. If you have any more information such as emissive color, roughness, specular, make sure to connect that as well. It's better to have more information than to have none. Okay, so press save.
Okay,
and it will save the
Ishan,
tab.
one more thing.
Yeah.
When you created this material, it already had some properties into it. So whenever you add new item and then connect it, So it will override those properties, right?
Yes,
Whatever
basically,
base it
yeah.
will have.
So when you'll create a material, it would literally have no properties. Like it would be
Okay.
just a black ball. So
Okay,
now,
so
but
it has nothing right now.
yes, it has no base color, no metallic property, no specularity,
Okay,
no
okay.
roughness. So I'm just
Okay.
providing base color, normal information. So normal information is height information, and the way it is going to interact with the background light. So I'm
Okay.
supplying these three pieces of information to create a 3D material,
Got it.
right?
Thanks.
Okay. So let's save it again. Awesome. Now we have our material saved. Let's go back to our master tile where we added a floor, and I'm going to add or change the material here. So right now it's m_basic floor. We don't want that. I'm going to type in asphalt and select our material, and this is how it is looking right now. It looks pretty good. Um, so you can change the shape of your flow tile. So if you think that it is too short or too small, just select the scale option and drag it in whatever size that you would like in particular direction that you want. So go to blueprints folder, and this is how my flow tile looks. So we have a road, and on the left side we have various on the left and right side we have various houses. How did I got the houses in the first place? Just go to various websites like Sketchfab or turbosquid.com, and you can download free 3D assets for educational purposes. Right. Now that I have my assets, all you have to do is again press import, go to the file, okay, select the model and press open. So that will import your 3D model and you can drag it into your scene. So I've added a few houses to make it look more filled. All right, now we have our tile. What we need is that it keeps on continuing the path. So I'll add one tile in the scene, and next it will keep on going. It's going to keep on adding tiles again and again. So it will create a never-ending road. How do I do that? Go to add component and type in arrow. When you select that, you'll have this red color arrow in your scene. Now drag it to a position where you want your next road tile to be. So I want it at this position. So it's 0 x-axis, 0 y-axis, and 0 x-axis, 0 z-axis, and in the y section I have added 500, right? So just drag into whatever position that you want it to be. So this is where my next road will connect. Like the same thing will repeat, and then wherever that tile's arrow would be, the same thing will repeat again. Right? So how do we do? Do is go to event graph. All right. How do we get rid of this thing? Like this bar. Okay, it's gone. Okay. Now we need to code in various features like spawning the tiles again. So go ahead and type game mode. So we have a third person game mode. In here we are going to code various things like points of the player that they have earned by collecting coins. Coins they have collected, the points multiplier, so the 2x or 3x sign that in Subway Surfer shows, which increases the amount of point that the player is earning. So all we have to do is in functions press this plus icon and this will create a new function. Name the function spawn tiles. Right? Now drag the execute node and type in spawn actor from class. Right? And in the class, just select master tile blueprint that we just created. All right. Now create a variable of transform type. So by clicking plus here, right? So transform and name it next spawn point. This will sort of define what your next spawn point is, right? And I'm going to select it. If you don't do that, I guess it will give error, right? So we need a next point where the actor will be spawned. Now I'm going to cast to master tile. I'm going to get the spawn point. Now what is the spawn point? This arrow. So I have named it spawn point, and you can name your variable by clicking here and adding whatever text you can. Now if I change the name, I guess it will change here also. Stay with spawn point, compile, save. Now I want it to get its location, so drag in and type in get world location, add 1500 to it, and I'm going to update the next spawn point location, right? So I'm taking the position of the arrow, I am updating the value of my next spawn point, and I'm spawning the next tile there. So that is pretty much it in spawn tiles function. Now come back to master tiles. So what we did was add an arrow, name it spawn point, went to game mode and written this function. Now we haven't called this function yet. How do we do that? I am going to add a box collision. So when you add this object, something like this will appear. So you see this invisible box that I drag around with yellow highlights. This basically is sort of like an object that can work as an event trigger. So what this will do is when I'll overlap this box, I can trigger an event. So just keep selecting this box and scale it perfectly across the road. In here, there is an event called on component begin overlap. There would be a little plus icon, select on that. Now I wanted to first check if it is the third person character at all. So drag in the other character, other actor, and type in cast to third person character. Right? So this will appear. Now drag and type in cast to third person game mode. So what casting means is we are referring that particular class and we are going to use that as reference. So we drag this and in object just type in get game mode. Right? Now as third person game mode, drag in and type spawn tiles. So drag in and type in spawn tiles. So we have that function here. And that is pretty much it. Now you don't have to do anything. Just do one thing though. Go to event graph and right click and type event begin play. So this is sort of introducing an event whenever the game starts. So when the game starts, this event will take place. Drag the execute node and type in for loop. So I'm just going to select this and this will appear. So first index is 0, so it will run from 0 to 8. And in the loop body, I'm just going to add spawn tiles. So what I'm trying to do is I am spawning tiles 9 times before the game starts. So if I don't do this, you'll see what happens. So I fell down and because I didn't have anything to stand on. So I am pre-spawning the tiles when the game launches for my player to stand on. Now when I press play, I can see the tiles might be spawning. So don't worry about the fact that my game has obstacles and coins in it. The way yours should be working is just tiles spawning again and again. Alright, let's talk about how we can change the lanes. Right? Let's go to type in content browser third person character. So what third person character is our character blueprint, which defines our character, sort of like a C++ class. Okay. Now, first of all, I want to tell my game engine that okay, these are the inputs that I'm going to use to change the lanes. Go to edit project settings, input, and click this little plus icon and type in take right. Now click this plus icon and go to keyboard and select right. So it's the right arrow key. Do the same for left instead and select, instead of right, select type in left. So that would be our left arrow. Awesome. Now we are done with the input thing. Right click and type take right. Select that. Now you'll have an event, and when it is pressed, drag it across. First of all, we'll create a new lane. We'll call it integer, and we'll initialize it to 0. We are going to create a lane variable, so that would be our current lane, and we are going to initialize it to 1 because we want it to be on our middle lane. So we are giving the rightmost lane the value 0, the middle one would be 1, and the leftmost one would be 2. So I want my game to start from the middle line, so that would be the index 0. Now I am going to create an array which will be called lane X. Now let's go back to viewport. Let's open our master tile. Right? Now remember when we add this arrow component to tell wherever the next spawn point will be, let's add other 3 arrows to tell what the next lane would be if I press an input button. So type in arrow and select arrow 3 times and name the leftmost one lane 0, rightmost one lane 0, and it should be pointing forward. Lane 1 would be middle one, and lane 2 would be the leftmost one. So we have 3 arrows defining 3 points in each lane where the player will move. Alright, now that we have done that, we're going to compile it, save it, go to the third person character, and okay. Now you must know one thing, that 2 coordinates of the 3 arrows will be same. So they all will have same Y and Z values, but they won't have the same X values because they're moving along the X. The middle one would have 0 X value, so we have 0. The right one would have minus 520, and the left one would have plus 520. Okay, so that's what we are going to define in our array, that is lane X. Lane X, because when we are changing lane, we are moving in X axis. So lane X, it will be a float variable type, and you might having this capsule looking thing here. Just select it and select array for lane X, right? So just select array, and in default value, press this plus button 3 times to give it a default value. Set the 0th element to minus 520, first element to 0, and second element to plus 520. Compile, save, and our work is pretty much done. Event graph, Now follow the script that I have done here. Pressed, set the new lane to decrease it, sort of like if I am pressing right, so I am going from second lane to 1, and if I am on the middle lane 1, I'm going to 0. So the rightmost lane is 0. So first of all, I'm checking by adding a clamp that is it like setting the minimum value 0, so it won't go below 0 and it won't go above 2. So that's what clamp does. So set the new lane by subtracting 1 and checking if it is going below 0. So it won't allow that. Now drag in and type add timeline. So you'll have this type of thing, and I have named it lerp timeline. You can name it whatever. Double click to open it. You'll have this kind of a UI where you can see a graph. So this is kind of showing the transition going from one point to another in 0.1 seconds. Right? So this point is in 0.1 and the value is 0.99. And here the value is 0 and time is also 0. So this is sort of like the transition period where the changing of line will happen. If I drag this out to value like 0.5, the whole transitioning of lane from one lane to another will take 0.5 seconds. Now how do I add these points here? How did I add this? I just press right click and I typed in add key to curve flow. So I've added a point to this curve here, right? So I can keep on doing that. Right, so currently we just need 2 and we don't need a whole curve. I just need 2 points. So right click, add curve to float 0. Now select this and set the time to be 0 and value to be 0. It will automatically move to point to here. Right, now add another key and select the second key and type in 0.1 in time and value 1.0. Alright, that is pretty much it. And when it is finished, set the current lane value to new lane and drag the update to set actor location. Just type in set actor location, and we are going to keep the Y and Z position safe because the lanes are only changing in X axis. These are not there is no change in Y and Z. So I'm going to drag the capsule component. I'm going to get its world location. So type in and type get world location. Now you might see that I don't have float values. I only have this orange. So press right click and split struct bin. Now I have 3 float values. If I do that and select recombine, so it will again convert to a location type. Delete that and connect Y to Y, Z to Z. Now right click, type lerp. So we have a lerp function here which works on float variables. Select that and connect A to the to this and B to this. So what we are trying to do is we are moving from the current lane to the new lane, right? And lane X is sort of like providing us which coordinate we have to move, right? So is it -520, 0 or 520? So we are trying to do that and connect the lane X from here to alpha. Awesome. Now the most difficult part in this whole project is done, and when you press play, you can now change the lanes. Now let's talk about creating a scoring system. How would we do that? Again, go to the content browser and type in game mode and open third person game mode. Okay, there is nothing in the viewport, that's why it's showing a dinosaur here. Dinosaur means nothing. Okay, so we are going to create some new variables called current points. That is the points that the player in the current game has earned, and it is going to be an integer. I'm going to create a points multiplier variable, and the default value will be 1, also integer. I'm going to create points, and the default value will be 0, also integer. Awesome. Now I just need assets for my coin, and the points will be decided by the distance that I'm running. So when I cross one floor tile, I should be given 50 points, right? So how do I do that? Go to master tile, event graph. Now where we left the spawn tiles, drag it and cast again to game mode. Drag the object and type in get game mode. Now drag this and type set current points. Now we are doing is we are multiplying it with 50, the point multiplier with 50, and adding it to the current points. So for example, the current points is 0. You cross the first floor tile, the points multiplier is increased by one value, and then it is multiplied by 50. So 1 into 50 is 50. 50 plus 0 is again 50. By doing this little calculation. Okay, so perhaps this might help. So I'm multiplying the points multiplier by 50 and adding it with the current points, and then updating the value of the current points. Now what I want is I want the game to speed up. So when you play Subway Surfer, the game starts slow, and the speed of at which the player is running increases super fast. So press compile, save, type to third person character, cast to third person character, drag the object, type in get player character. Now drag this and type get character movement. So we are getting the character movement component, and we are going to set max walk speed. We are going to double it, right? So it will start at 0 and will keep on increasing till max is 200. So that is how it's going to be. And then we are adding a delay. So type in delay 1.5. So 1.5 second delay. And what we are doing is we are destroying the actor. So once I have crossed a tile, it is behind me. After 1.5 second, it will destroy itself. Why? Because if I keep on spawning tiles and never clearing the memory, then what will happen? My RAM of whatever platform that I am running on will fill up. So save. Now press play. Now after every tile that I cross, I'll earn 50 points. Alright, looks amazing. Now let's talk about power-ups. Or in this case, we are just spawning points. How do I do that? First of all, I need a asset for that. So go to import. Go to whatever asset you have imported for your pickup object. Mine is something like okay, it's called pickup underscore kinetic energy. I select open and I have imported that. Okay, so I just need to find where in what folder that I saved it in. Coin pickup, and this is how it looks like. So what I have done is I have give it a little emissive color. So emissive color is bright object. Alright, so anything that is bright, sort of like a tube light, or if you're creating a a neon signboard, uh, just give it an emissive color and it will start glowing. Alright, now that I have my asset, I am going to go back to my blueprints, right click and create a blueprint actor, and I'm going to call it coin pickup BP, something like this. I'm going to add a static mesh, just like I have done here, and I'm going to select whatever static mesh that I want. So in this case, it was pickup underscore kinetic energy. Awesome. Now, rotating movement. So to add component, type in rotating movement. Now, what this will do is this will add this will rotate the coins. So you can see these are rotating. So that just gives a better feel to the game. Okay. Go to event, begin overlap. Select static mesh and type in event, begin overlap. Drag the other actor and type cast to third person character. Drag mesh. So get mesh and then get world location. And then we are going to play a sound. So I have also imported a sound that is called pickup underscore SFX. So all the sounds that you import to Unreal Engine 4 should all be of format .wav. So wave files are only allowed in Unreal Engine 4. Okay, so let's continue with that. Then cast to third person game mode where our points are stored, and I am going to add increment our coins, the value of coins. So type in, select get coins, track this and type increment. So increment int, and then connect this execute here and this to destroy actor. So after I collect a coin, it should disappear because I have collected it. So press play. Now you'll see that power-ups are spawning. But how will I lose in the game if all I'm doing is running and collecting coins and there is no obstacle, right? So for this game, I downloaded I downloaded various obstacles, like meshes for the obstacles. I am going to show to you. Go to models and concrete barrier. So this is the model that I'm using for the obstacle, and whenever the user will the player will touch this or get bumped with it, they will be dead and the game will be over. Alright, so let's start working with it. Go to blueprints folder again, right click, new blueprint folder, and type obstacle BP. So I have created a class called obstacle1. Go to viewport and add component static mesh. Alright, you have static mesh. Now select the static mesh, whatever you want it to be. So in this, I want it to be this mesh here, right? Compile, save. Now again, go to event graph, keep selecting this and type event begin overlap, right? So this will appear. Other actor, cast to third person character, and go to the third person character. So open third person character, and create a function called death function. So it's not as bad as it sounds. The death function will only end the game. So first of all, drag it and type set type get mesh. So you have the mesh now, or what you can do is drag the mesh from here. Now drag it and type set simulate physics, that we have done. Now type in disable movement. So now our character won't move anywhere drag this and type create. Okay, that's pretty much it, right? That is what we are doing. I'm just going to explain the later part in a while. So press play. Okay, now we have our coins pickup object setup and our obstacles. All we need is to spawn, right? Spawn them. Go to third person blueprints, third person character. Oh, sorry. Go to where did it go? Master tile. Okay, in master tile, create a function called spawn obstacles or spawn objects, because in this we are not only spawning obstacles, we are also spawning objects. So drag the execute node, type in switch on end, and the selection would be drag in and type in random integer in range. The minimum would be 0, the max would be 2. Drag 1, so we don't want anything in 0. If the value of the random integer is 1, drag in spawn actor, and what will be the transform? The lane 0 at lane 0. So just drag in lane 0, get world transform, and connect the transform value to here. Awesome. Compile, save. Now you'll see that lane 0 will randomly spawn various obstacles. Now let's also spawn the coins. If the value of the random integer is 2, drag spawn actor from class, select coin pickup in class, right? And the transform variable would be same. Compile, save. Now we have only done this for lane 1. Go ahead, drag, do the whole thing, switch on int again, add lane 1, just change lane 1, again copy the whole thing, delete lane 1 and add lane 2. So all we have done is repeated the same thing but changed lane in each one of them. Okay, so it will randomly spawn anything within the 3 lanes. Click save, press play. Now you'll see that our game is spawning random objects at any place. You can just press space to, which is the default button in the third person template, to jump. So the jump animation was coded in by default in the template. Okay, so as you can see, I am collecting coins, I am obstacles, and if I get bumped into something, okay, I'm gone and the game is stopped. Now I want to display that the game is stopped. How do I do that? I'll have to create a UI element, right? So I'm going to create a new folder called HUD. So I have already done that. Right click, scroll down, user interface, and select widget blueprint. Type and name it game over widget. Double click to open it, and I have added a text here that says game over, right? And save it. Just anchor it to the center. So anchor means it will remain in the center and won't go anywhere else. All right, that is pretty much it. I have set it. Now, where is my death function? In the third person character, so I'm going to go there, open my death function, and here I'm going to type create widget. In the class, I am going to select game over widget. So game over widget and add to viewport. So drag in and type in add to viewport. Compile, save, play. Now anytime I come in contact with a boulder on an obstacle, I'll be my player will die and the game will be over. Awesome. Now we have covered many parts of the game. The only thing left is creating a good pause menu and main menu. It's really simple. For pause menu, I am going to again go to my HUD, type in user interface, widget blueprint, and name it pause menu. Okay. First of all, go to edit, project settings, in input, again, I am going to add an action mapping called pause, and I'll set the key to be P. So whenever I'll press P, the game will pause. Now go to designer, and I have added 3 buttons to it, and I've given them various backgrounds in the appearance option. So all you can do is go to palette and type button and drag the button here and edit its properties from the right side. Okay, and then I typed in text, so I added text blocks to my buttons, right? And I set their values. Okay, now I have designed my widget blueprint where everything is supposed to go. All I need to do is set on click events. So select the resume button. You can change the name of your buttons from of your objects from here. Select resume button, scroll down, and on click there would be a plus button. Select that, and this red event will appear. Now drag this and type in set game paused to false, because resume means unpause the game, and remove from parent, so it will remove the widget from the parent. Alright, so save, and here quit game. When I press quit game, it should quit the game and come back to my desktop. So on click, drag it out and type in quit game. Easy, compile, save. Now I want my pause menu to be shown. How would I do that? Go to third person blueprints, open third person character. Now in event graph, press right click and type pause. So you'll see in action events we have created an event called pause. Click on it and you will be greeted by something like this. So when it is pressed, drag in, set mouse cursor to true, get player control. This is not necessary if you are making your game available in for various devices like Android, iOS, iPad, etc. In those cases, we don't need a mouse cursor. You can just tap on that button. So since we are working on for PC, just select true. Okay. Set game pause to true because we are pausing the game. Create widget. So type in create widget. Select the widget. Pause menu. If you don't select your widget, it will give you an error. See. So we need pause menu. So pause. And add to. Simple. Compile. Save. Press play. Now every time you press P, your game will be paused. See, the game is paused. And I can press resume to continue, and I can press quit. The game will exit. Okay, now we have created our pause menu. One last thing that is left is to create our scoring system, sort of like displaying the score on the screen. How would I do that? Go to the third folder, right click, user interface, widget blueprint, and name this widget blueprint runner HUD or whatever you think seems fit for your game. Alright, now I have added one text field which is text block underscore 212, and I have cornered it by anchoring it to the right corner, and I have added another text field which is also in the top right corner. This will show the value of coins, and this will show how much points I have earned. Okay? How would I do that? How would I reflect my score here? Scroll down, and in the content you might be seeing that there is something like this, so you can set your text. So in the beginning, the text would show 0000. I want to create a binding. Create binding. I have already created that, so I'm going to skip that. So when you do that, a graph will be opened. Now get text 0 or whatever the name of your function that is being created is, drag the execute mode, type in cast to third person game mode, get game mode, then get current points, and then connect it to the return mode. It will automatically connect it to from an integer to a text. Now if you want commas in your score, like in international system there is, so you can select grouping. I don't want that, and you can select minimum or maximum integral digits. Compile, save. Now when you press play, you can see that as I progress in my game, the points are increased. Right? So what we can do is, for the coins, is select the text field. Again, go to binding, create binding, and the function will be opened for you, something like this. Again, cast to game mode. Get, in this case we are getting coins, and disconnected to return mode, and don't allow grouping. Compile, save, press play, and we have successfully created a playable game easily in Unreal Engine 4. All that is left is creating a main menu. That is super simple. All you have to do is right click, create a main menu like we did. Right click, user interface, widget blueprint like we did for pause menu. I added a background image, and the name for the game is Knight Rider because that sounded cool. And I added 2 buttons. So when new game is clicked, it opens the level that in which my game is actually, the gameplay level. All right. Now, where do I display the main menu? I created another level and I called it main menu level. There is nothing in this game, nothing in this level. It's just plain. So press right click, level, and this will create a blank level for you. Okay, so just going to delete that. So type in main menu level for the name. Go to blueprints, open level blueprint, event begin play, and set mouse cursor to true because we want mouse input in main menu. Create widget, add to viewport, right? Let's just drag the play controller here. Okay, compile, save. Right, and I also remember I included a background music, so you can add a background music in your game also while playing it. So go to level 1, open blueprints, to level blueprint. So you can see I have added the runner HUD widget in the event begin play. So when this level will start, it will create the runner HUD widget. If I disconnect it, you can see there is no more. I can see my coins and points. Awesome. So let's connect that, and I'm going to play sound 2D, and I'll type in background music. Compile, save. I hope you can hear the sound. So okay, so now you can hear it. Right. So I've added background sounds, and the game will increase the speed as the progresses. I have added obstacles. I have added coins. That is pretty much it. As far as developing the game goes, we have covered all the paths from scoring to creating menus, to power-ups, to various unlimited spawning of tile. Alright, let's talk about packaging the game. Okay, so packaging is the process in in which we are creating a whole package of our game. Um, like in Windows, we need an executable file to run a game, so it will create an executable file if I'm packaging it for Windows. For PlayStation 4, it will create PlayStation 4 specific file. For Xbox One, Xbox Scarlet version, PlayStation 5, Android, iOS. So it will create a particular file for specific platforms. So in this case, I have Windows only. So go to packaging settings, and you can browse through these settings. So use pack file, so it will create packaging files. If you're creating for Android, go to packaging, and there is an option called compress packages. Just select that. So in this, so create compressed cook packages. This will reduce the size of your game. Supported platforms, I have checked only Windows 32-bit and 64-bit. You can do for Linux, you can do for 64-bit Linux, you can do for Lumen, Mac, TV, even TV OS, iOS. You have HoloLens support. You can do for Android. Awesome. Now save current file, package project, whatever platform that you want it to be. So I want Windows 64-bit. Go browse the folder where you want your game to be saved, press save, and the process will begin. Okay, it takes a while, sort of like 1 hour or 30 minutes, depending on the complexity of your game, if it has big assets or not. I'm going to cancel it. Okay, now if you're doing it for Android, there is a whole documentation that you need to go through. You can visit the documentation on unrealengine.com. You need to install Android version 3.5.3. You just need to install it, and there is a file that you need to run in Unreal Engine, and this will complete your setup. Now you can go to File, Package Project, and Android, and you can select whatever version you're aiming for. So that is pretty much it. Thank you guys for joining. These are my social accounts, and thank you Ganesh and Simran.
It was great. I mean, that entire seeing a game like Subway Surfers Temple Run come to life. That was nice. For the
anyone can do that, I used to think like game development would be hard. Also, Unreal Engine, it's like they say it's based for C++. I fear it so much because of that C++ name.
But now that you have the option to work with Blueprint, sort of like a visual scripting, you don't even have to write one line of code.
Yeah, that helps a lot. I mean, that will help a lot of people get into game dev. Like, it's somewhat like Scratch, if we talk in terms of game dev. Yeah, that's amazing.
Amazing. So,
nice.
Just
wrapping it
tell
up.
the final words.
Yeah. Okay. So, these are Ishan's social media handles. Make sure to go follow him. And if you followed along through this and created, or if you add something extra to this game, make sure to hit us up and also let Ishan know. I think he'll be very pleased to see what you innovate with the instructions he's given. And if you decide to make something else with Unreal, and if you're facing any issues, these are the handles where you can hit him up. And well, I think he won't mind at all. So like, just go ahead and connect with Ishan on all his social medias. And yeah, we'll see you with another workshop episode in a few weeks.
I guess we can do one thing. If this sort of webinar or like video hits 50 or 60 likes, let's go with 50 likes. I will publish this game on a platform where everyone can download it, and I'll open source the whole project.
Okay, fine. So if this video, like Ishan just said, if this video hits 50 likes, the game that you just saw will be published to a platform where everybody can access it and play it. And also, the entire code for the game will be open source. So let's hit that like button as soon as you see it and share it with your friends. Let them hit the like button. Let's get the likes to like 100 so Ishan has no other option than to publish the game.
Yeah.
Let's do this. So we hope this workshop really helps you understand game development and also helps you in conducting workshops in your communities and areas on the same topic. If you use our content to conduct your workshops, please let us know and tag us in your social media posts. It would be great for us to know that we've helped you in some way. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks, Ishan, for delivering such a wonderful session. Thank you, Ganesh, for being there with me, keeping me company as a host throughout. Thank you very much. And to the audience that will be watching, thanks a lot. We will be waiting for you to be added to our subscribers list, considering MSP Inspire publishes workshops, sessions, and podcasts every few days. So yeah, we'll see you soon with another workshop.